It's August 21st, 1998, and in a single day, one firm just lost $553 million. Not over a year, not over a month. In one day, that's about $384,000 a minute around the clock for 24 hours straight. More money than most towns will see in a lifetime, gone while everybody slept. And here's the part that'll make you crazy. The men who ran this firm were considered the smartest human beings on the planet. Two of them had a Nobel Prize. One of them used to help run the Federal Reserve. So how do the smartest people in the world lose everything in a matter of weeks? To understand that, we've got to go back, because this didn't start with a loss. It started with a machine that looked like it printed money. 1994. A man named John Meriwether starts a new company. He's a legend, one of the greatest bond traders Wall Street has ever seen. And he doesn't just want a good team. He wants the greatest team that has ever existed. So he hires Myron Scholes and Robert Merton, the two men who basically wrote the math the entire options market runs on. He hires a former vice chairman of the Federal Reserve. This isn't a hedge fund, it's an all-star team in suits, and Meriwether has something to prove. A few years earlier, a scandal on his old trading desk pushed him out in disgrace. This is his comeback. They call it long-term capital management. And when they open the doors, investors hand them $1.25 billion, almost sight unseen. You didn't ask LTCM what they were doing. You felt lucky they let you in. And for a while, they look untouchable. First full year, they return 43%. The next year, 41%. Hand these men $1,000, and a year later, it's over $1,400, while your bank is paying you $3. But here's the thing about a money machine. Everybody wants to know how it works. And the second you see how it worked, you'll spot the crack running right down the middle of it. Here's what they actually did. They didn't bet on some stock going to the moon. They did the opposite. They'd find two bonds that were almost identical, but priced a little differently. A tiny gap that should close over time. They bet on that gap closing. Trouble is, that gap is tiny. Pennies. Insiders had a name for this kind of trading. They called it picking up nickels in front of a steamroller. You collect a little and a little and a little, as long as that steamroller never catches you. To make real money picking up nickels, you need size, enormous size. So they borrowed, and I mean they borrowed. For every $1 of their own money, they controlled about $25 of bonds. That's called leverage. Let me put that in your driveway. Imagine buying a $500,000 house with $20,000 down. If the house ticks up, you make a fortune on your 20 grand. But if that house drops just 4%, your entire down payment is gone. Now picture doing that with over $125 billion of borrowed money. More than the value of every single house in a major American city. That's LTCM. Brilliant bets, stacked on a mountain of debt. And they were sure, mathematically sure, that mountain could never fall. Their models said a truly catastrophic year was a once-in-the-life of the universe event. The universe was about to disagree. 1997. They're so successful they have a strange problem. Too much money and not enough tiny gaps left to bet on. So they make a decision that sounds responsible and turns out to be fatal. They hand almost $3 billion back to their investors. But, and this is everything, they keep their bets the exact same size. Think about what that does. You just gave away part of your cushion while keeping the same giant position. Quietly, their leverage climbs. They pulled out the shock absorber right before the crash. That same year, Scholes and Merton fly to Sweden to collect the Nobel Prize. The world is handing them a medal for their math, at the exact moment that math is steering their firm toward a cliff. Then, August 17th, 1998, Russia defaults, just stops paying its debts. LTCM barely owns any Russian debt. Doesn't matter. Because when a country blows up, the whole world panics at once. Every investor on earth runs for safety at the same moment. And here's the flaw hiding inside all that genius. Their models assumed their many bets were independent, that they couldn't all go wrong together. But in a panic, everything goes wrong together. All those separate trades, they were secretly the same trade, and now it was losing everywhere all at once. Now it comes apart, fast. In August alone, they lose about $1.85 billion, nearly half of everything they have, in weeks. On August 21st, the day we opened with, they lose $553 million in 24 hours. $384,000 a minute. And they're trapped. They're so enormous that when they try to sell, there's nobody big enough to buy. Every time they reach for the exit, they push the price down further on themselves. They are too big to leave the room. By mid-September, the cushion is almost gone. Their leverage isn't 25-1 anymore. It's over 100-1. At that point, a move of 0.5% against you ends everything. There is no room left to be even a little wrong. Then comes the call nobody wanted. If they go down, they owe so much to so many banks, over $1 trillion in contracts, that it could drag the entire financial system down with it. So, on September 23rd, the Federal Reserve pulls 14 of the biggest banks on Wall Street into one room and says, you have to save them. Together, they put up about $3.65 billion to take the whole thing over and unwind it slowly. For years, these men had been the smartest guys in every room, the ones the big banks envied. Now those same banks had to link arms and catch them before they hit the ground. Only one bank refuses to chip in. Its name was Bear Stearns. Remember that name, because exactly 10 years later, Bear Stearns would be the one begging to be rescued. The investors, most of the money was gone. The smartest fund in the world handed them back about 10 cents on the dollar. So here's what this story shows about how money works. Leverage isn't a money machine. It's a magnifying glass. It makes your wins bigger and your mistakes bigger by the exact same amount. The more you borrow, the smaller the mistake you're allowed to make. They borrowed so much that being just a little wrong was fatal. And unlikely is not the same as impossible. Their math wasn't dumb. It was brilliant. But brilliant math still can't see the one rare day that ends the game. When the downside is everything, it stops mattering how unlikely it is. What matters is whether you'd survive it. Even that comfort of owning lots of different things, it can be an illusion. Because in a real panic, everything you own can start moving together. And 100 smart bets turn out to be one big bet wearing 100 costumes. The smartest people in the world didn't fail because they were dumb. They failed because they were so sure they were right that they bet everything on never being wrong. That's my 2 cents. I'll see you on the next one.